Hello folks, welcome to another episode of the Cricket Hotspot podcast. This is me, Sarthak, along with my co-host Parth.
Hello.
On this lovely Saturday morning here in Toronto. And this is episode number 12. A very interesting fact, Parth, regarding number 12 is the number of father-son pairs that have played for England.
Yes.
There are 12 in total.
Yep.
A lot of famous ones in there.
Broad and Broad, obviously.
Obviously. The senior Broad is the match referee now, and the junior Broad is the captain of the T20 side of England.
There was Alan Butcher and Mark Butcher.
That's right. Yes, interesting combo there.
Arnie Sidebottom and Ryan Sidebottom have played. Colin Cowdrey and Chris Cowdrey have played. Very famous name. Hutton and Hutton, Sir Ned Hutton and Richard Hutton have played for England. So
some very prestigious names in there,
yes.
And cricketing blue blood, I would say.
Yes.
So
it shows the tradition, it shows the culture of cricket, which it used to be in England, and hopefully which returns when several of their South African imports leave.
A low blow there. All right. In any case, moving on, guys, we have a very interesting episode lined up this week. A lot has been happening on the field of cricket.
Yes, we'll try to make this episode as bizarre as the first test between South Africa and Australia.
On that note, let's begin with that test match.
Yes.
Let's talk about the crazy, manic, whatever adjectives you want to use, test match that was the one between Australia and South Africa, which ended up at 23 wickets on one day. Was it day 3?
Day 2.
Day 2, sorry.
And it ended in 2.5 days. So it was just
bizarre.
First, let's talk about, I think Clark would say, one of the best centuries he's hit.
Oh, absolutely.
And it was at strike rate of 80. And also, it was just a beautiful exhibition of how to play on a lively wicket. I saw that innings in highlights. Obviously, there was a big kerfuffle between him and Dale Steyn. Dale Steyn bowled him a couple of nasty bounces, and it was just a very bizarre start. And then he started play his shots. He came on his own, some classic Clark leg glances which were not to be seen in quite recent past.
A very impressive innings, actually. The highlight of that innings would be the strike rate.
Yes.
If you see, it was a strike rate of greater than 70. Scoring 150 runs at a strike rate of 70 is pretty good in a test match.
Very, very
and
good.
Especially a low-scoring test match, that could be the match-changing innings.
Yes.
Unfortunately, there was more to come.
But there were more bizarre events to happen, yes.
Absolutely. So the amount of runs scored and in the time they were scored, that made a huge difference.
And across the board, like if you saw even the 96 or even the 47, they were very quick runs. I mean, 18 overs, 47, you would still consider very quick in test match cricket. And also a week of good debuts. Let's just
absolutely. If we move our focus towards the bowling department in that test match, I think that was a bowler's test match. Fair enough to say that. 2.5 days.
What I saw of that test match was that it wasn't particularly lively wicket, but it was just a day of manic things happening.
Yeah, some atrocious shot selection and some good fielding and some good bowling.
So let's move on to day 2. Day 2 starts off with Australia still have 3 wickets, and they make a decent score. By lunchtime, it was 49 for 1. And
for South Africa.
For South Africa. And right after your man Shane Watson is given the ball.
Oh, absolutely.
And I have not seen as many DRS referrals and as many appeals in my cricket watching time forever, and for just that 1 hour. Umpires got it wrong
each and every time.
Very, very, very frequently.
Yeah.
And it was sort of an insult to umpiring community, that test match. What do you have to say about that?
I think one thing is for sure that the proponents of the use of technology for umpires are going to refer to this test match for years to come.
Yes,
this is going to be the benchmark test.
Yes.
When every time the discussion regarding technology in umpiring decision comes up. You see the number of decisions that were referred and the number of decisions that were overturned from the
Yes.
on-field umpire.
Yes.
And that
they had some howlers in there, which is why technology is there for.
absolutely. So again, to remind our audience, technology is not always bad. It depends on how it's used. I think the entire package was used here.
Yes.
There was no compromise on any of the available technologies. They had ball tracking, they had pitch maps, Hawkeye, hotspot, everything in there.
Yeah.
And that makes a huge difference, even though some of the technologies are still not completely proved.
Yeah.
But that made a huge difference on the on-field umpiring decisions. And if those
and I think what's good with this technology is that you give the margins of doubt to the umpire. That's what umpires are there for.
I don't think any of the umpires have actually complained about the use of technology, because they are more than happy to have the decisions overturned if they are wrong.
Yes.
That's the true test of their skill, as the batsmen and bowlers face each other's skills on their field. So this is the true test of the umpire's skills, and if the umpire can get it right even after the use of technology, then that's a compliment to the umpiring decision himself.
And they got it wrong big time.
So again, and if they get it wrong, they have to accept it and move on that they made a mistake.
Yes.
And it's better that they have someone correct it at that point of time itself, rather than that decision having effect on the entire outcome of the test match.
Yes, and I think and I think more than the records that this test match set, this aspect of this test match will be remembered forever. At least I will remember it. I saw the highlights, and the whole session was actually a highlights package.
Absolutely.
And it was just. I was just astonishing the amount of overturns and the amount of referrals that were made, and all of them, well, not all of them, nearly all of them were correct. So let's move on to the manic of the South African series. 49 for 1, and suddenly Shane Watson comes in and rips through the
South African batting.
One or two were lucky, but he bowled very, very well. He was the best of them all. And I was hoping Mitchell Johnson brings back his form, because Mitchell Johnson bowled very well 3 years ago in South Africa, and he bowled well in the practice match. So I was thinking that South Africa is a sort of magic land and he gets things right, but he
gets back his mojo.
I think he's made it easier for Pat Cummins to make a debut in the next.
Oh, absolutely. I think Pat Cummins will most definitely make his debut, depending on seeing how the bowlers performed. Although it wasn't really that bad, but Shane Watson, who's not your frontline bowler, he's probably the second change bowler in your side.
He's sort of the Parveen Kumar of.
And if he can come and take 5 wickets, and if your strike bowlers, Ryan Harris, I'll agree he did a good job. Harris did a good job. But Mitchell Johnson, coming back to the problem, the thorn in Australia, Australia's lineup, it's the performance of Mitchell Johnson. He does add a little bit with the bat compared to Pat Cummins.
He also adds that actually a surprise package that you get, like he'll come and take a 5 for any time. You don't know, but there is an increasingly large gap in the number of matches that he goes off color and he gets for.
So a number of mediocre performances with one brilliant performance once in a while. Does that remind you of any Indian bowler?
Let's not go there. There have been too many in the list.
Most recently, Sreesanth.
Yes, Sreesanth.
So many mediocre performances and one brilliant spell out of nowhere, and the last one coming in South Africa itself, if you remember.
I think another bowler it reminds me of is the Stuart Broad, who was prior to the sort of India series. He was that kind of a bowler. He used to bowl one spell in a year, and that used to keep him for the next 50. So
anyway, jumping back to the Australia-South Africa test, Vernon Philander, I think man of the match, truly deserved.
8 wickets on debut. It was 8 or 9, I can't remember, but it was up there, and it was certainly a debut that he will never forget, on a pitch that he would like to keep in his pocket and travel wherever he goes. Certainly a very good bowling effort. He was swinging the ball. It sort of reaffirmed my theory, and I think world cricket's theory, is that if you give Australia a good bowling attack, they will flop. In the last 2 years, since I was looking up the stats, since January 1st of 2010, Australia has gotten out under 100 three times, and that is unheard of for Australian standards.
That's true.
3 years prior, 4 years prior, when they had Gilchrist and all of them coming. So, what do you think about the Australian sort of collapse?
I think, again, I think we have to come back to the excuse that has been going on for a while. I mean, I wouldn't really call it an excuse. It is a legitimate reason, and that is the team that is in rebuilding phase. Losing 4 or 5 of your top stars within a short period of time can take a big toll on your on the way the team shapes up for future. So you had Hayden, Langer, Gilchrist, Vaughan, McGrath all retire. All these 5 greats, I would say, retire within a short period of time. And for them to rebuild, again, you have openers, keeper, your spin attack, your pace attack. Everything was dismantled, and suddenly you have to build from zero. Well, not from zero, but again, your main personnel are gone. So
Yes.
for them to come back and be the top team again, it'll take some time. But I don't know how long
But
should
I
it take.
think 3 under 100, that is desperate stuff. I mean, under 100 is too low. Is too low. I mean, we saw India going their lowest in the summer, but none of the series. I mean, none of the innings was under 100. That's very poor, don't you think so?
It is absolutely, but I think the more exposure the younger players get to these bigger stages into international matches, the better they'll become. And absolutely, the people who've been performing for Australia, even in their victories, have usually been the pros, the proven performers, be it Ponting, your Michael Clark, Hussey, it's Shane Watson. It's usually been these players who've been performing. The youngsters haven't really stepped up and been a part of a great victory. So that's one thing that Australia needs to figure out, of how to get the youngsters to step up at the international stage and get them to perform and win new matches.
Since we are talking about the youngsters, what do you think of removing their opener and putting in Warner in their test matches? Because their opener is not doing a job that he's there for.
Phil Hughes, you mean,
Yes,
right?
yeah, Phil Hughes.
I don't think it. I think it's a little too early to discard Phil Hughes. I think he's more of the test match mode than David Warner. David Warner is good. If you followed the domestic Australia series right now, he scored quick 100, 200 actually against I think it was whatever the team. I don't remember, but he scored a very quick century or double century, and it's pretty much the same as we have for our domestic cricket in India. If you see players scoring centuries or runs and buckets at the domestic level, as soon as you put them in the international level, especially in the longer format of the game, their technique is...
Well, that's because the people who are in the domestic level now have grown up to adapt to test cricket. But what happened earlier, maybe 10 years ago, was that people played the longer format and then they had to adapt to the sort of shorter format, and they had the technique to play the longer format first, and then they sort of adapted those extra.
No, my point being that a lot of players at the domestic level have scored runs in bucket loads, but when they are promoted to the international level, they haven't quite replicated their form there. And is it the difference in the level, which is obviously there, but what else? Is it the mindset?
Well, okay, India and Australia are sort of two different...
Absolutely, two different places. And
Yes.
I'd actually say that
And the
players coming out of the
bowling quality in
Australian
both
domestic market are actually a little more in tune with the international setup than players coming out of the Indian domestic market. And I can absolutely say this with confidence. You can see the number of players that come out of Australia from the domestic market, and the way they perform at the international level.
They are more in tune in the sense that they're actually better fielders. They have the sort of media sort of management skills that is required, and I don't buy this theory that actually Indian players do not know how to face fast bowling as much as Australian players do.
I think the difference here is they are more in tune with the demands of the rigors of the international cricket.
Yes, that I agree with, because the way both the setups are, Australian is more professional, and it will always remain until and unless there is a big change in the Indian domestic. domestic side. And the fact is that Indian domestic sides have so many teams. The talent is very thinly is scarce all through so many teams. So I think, but Australia has, I think, 6 or 7 teams, which sort of makes that all the people in Victoria play for one team, and there's only 6 or 7 provinces. But in India, there are, I think, 28 or 29. You cannot get as much talent.
But the thing is, in India, they have divided into 2 different stages. So you have the elite stage and you have the plate stage. So only 10 teams in the elite stage and the other 10 teams or 12 teams in the plate stage. So you have different tiers, and then obviously you perform well and you get upgraded to the elite status depending on your performance. But the fact is, I think why the Indian players haven't replicated their performance at the internationals. I'm sorry, I think we've digressed a little bit to the Indian side of it.
Yes.
But in any case, just to make the last point here, why the Indian players haven't replicated the performance at the international level is because the type of pitches that the Indian domestic circuit provides them.
That will always be the case. You have to change that, and I think every cricket fan in India, every cricket fan in the world wants them to go either way, either go spin way or you go either fast bowling way. If you just keep them batting friendly wickets, you will not help anybody.
Absolutely.
The batsmen, once they go out, they're not trained to play on the bounce. They're not trained to play on the moving delivery.
They have no idea of how to face the ball that rises off of a good length.
Yeah.
They are only used to playing balls that are, even if they pitch on a good length, they're below the knee roll.
Yeah.
Or they have consistent bounce.
And if there is spin, it's slow spin, so you can just play around anywhere you want.
So till the quality of the pitches in India does not change, till they don't offer quality fast bowling pitches in India, I think the 2 disadvantages we'll always have is the batsmen won't know how to play fast bowling, quality fast bowling when they step up to the international stage, and we won't be able to produce any quality fast bowlers.
But that's not to say Australia is not. I mean, they are doing everything good. I mean, their pitches have also gone towards the batting friendly, and
absolutely. So, and again, coming back to your question about Dave Warner versus Phil Hughes, that was the original question posed. I'd still take Phil Hughes at this point of time because he has shown glimpses of excellence.
Has he though?
We cannot
only in that first debut match.
The debut match.
Only in that debut match, and that was also a very T20 kind of an innings. Both of them were T20 kind of an innings.
I'd still choose him because he's more in tune with the test match requirements rather than Dave Warner. Warner is good, no doubt. Don't take me wrong, but more for the shorter format of the game, I believe so. And unless and until he proves himself, like he did recently, scoring a century for his state side, unless and until he does that consistently, I think Phil Hughes will remain the side. Or you can have Sean Marsh open and get another batsman in the middle order.
Because their opening is very vulnerable. If Watson doesn't perform, who's not an opener,
get Gattage back.
No, I don't. Anyways, we'll not open that Pandora's box all over again.
All right, so moving from one quality debut performance to another quality debut performance, and that is from Philander to R. Ashwin. India versus West Indies. R. Ashwin, 9 wickets on debut.
I think it's more. It's not a lot to say about Ashwin, but it's more to say about the West Indies' poor handling of spin bowling. Ashwin bowled well, there's no doubt about it, because that wicket needed patience, and that's what the West Indies players didn't have. And it needed patience also from Ashwin's point of view, which he possessed, having played in India for so long and having played in that stadium, which he confessed later on. But it was a good performance, and it shows that India has a backup spinner if they want when Harbhajan returns. The thing is that would Harbhajan return? That's a question for the selectors to answer, which they have said no for the next test.
What was interesting to see is, and what actually helped Ashwin succeed in the test match was his variations. So unlike Harbhajan, who's off late just becoming into a flat off-spin type bowler who's more like Yusuf Pathan in a T20 match.
Yes, more
just
like him.
Bowl your flat off-spinners and just hope the batsman makes a mistake and you get hold out.
And remove and suck all the art of spin bowling and just
There's no
throw
flight.
flatters,
Yeah,
you
there's
know.
no flight. There's no guile. There's no drift. There's no dusra coming actually. So that has become really boring.
He has lost his Dusra, which we have been saying here for the last 3-4 months.
Ever since we started the podcast.
Yeah.
But in any case, coming back to Ashwin, I think what was interesting to note was the variations he had. He had the top spinner. He obviously has an amazing carom ball. His stock off spinner and getting it. And he doesn't change his action that much, so it's really tough for the batsman to read, even for a quality batsman.
Yep.
And no disrespect to the West Indies batting lineup, but they are inexperienced.
They are inexperienced.
Except for the likes of Chandrapal and stuff. Most of them are inexperienced. And for them to come up and just play a quality, well, I wouldn't say quality pitch, but a slow and low turning wicket, it's a little tough.
It's very tough.
When you're facing a spinner with so much quality, so much variations in his arm.
But you have to say this was their best chance to hurt India.
Yes.
India will get better and better. I think
they were in a great position to win the test match.
Yes, they were in an excellent position. I think giving credit to Ashwin is slightly taking credit from Oja, who got 6 wickets, bowled tons of maidens, and once Jason Gillespie said was that McGrath used to hold the opposition so much and he didn't allow runs to leak through that people wanted to hit Jason Gillespie, and he got majority of his wickets because of the frustration of hitting
Absolutely,
McGrath. And I think that same principle can be moved here, and it fits perfectly. He got a lot of his wickets because of the tight hold that Oja had over the West Indies.
Absolutely, and it was great that Ashwin actually revealed that in his post-match interview, and he said he actually identified Oja's contribution at the other end as being one of the main reasons why he got so many wickets.
Do you think West Indies is a real test for Ashwin and Oja as a spin combination, or would you say they would go to England? I mean, they would go to Australia and play for India? I
wouldn't say the West Indies. To answer your first question, no. West Indies is not a real test for any of the bowlers. They have talent in their batting lineup, but they have not proved themselves.
It will take time for them to become a sort of a proper West Indies unit, which doesn't seem to happen because of their administration issues. But
so yes, definitely not a true test, but a good performance nonetheless, which should help them future wherever they go, be it Australia, be it England, be it South Africa, but any of the places where traditionally spin is not favoured. And if they can replicate their performances there, boy oh boy, we do have a good bench strength in our spinning.
Gale, a hole missing in the West Indian attack?
Big hole. Just the amount of energy he brings on the field. If for anyone who's watched IPL, you see the amount of energy Chris Gale brings into the recently concluded IPL in the Bangalore lineup. As soon as he was on the field, Bangalore started winning test matches out of nowhere. He started scoring at ridiculous strike rate of 200 and up, and each and every match he was scoring. Not like he was scoring 10 runs and then 50 and then 5 runs and then 20 and then 150 again. Each and every T20 match was a half century or more, and that kind of consistency, that kind of monstrous power that he brings to the batting lineup, it can really intimidate the opposition and the bowlers especially. And if that opening batsman does their job like Gale does, it makes it easier for the rest of the lineup.
A fast-paced 80 is worth gold, which Sehwag proved in this.
Which Sehwag proved, absolutely. And that makes it really easy for the rest of the batting lineup to come in and just play their natural game, and survive basically the onslaught of the new ball and then just build their innings.
We would be amiss to not mention the elusive 100th.
The elusive 100.
Your take, when would it come? When would this question stop being asked?
Ton of tons. I'm pretty sure the people who love fairy tale endings would want the Master Blaster to get his 100th in his backyard in Mumbai in the third test.
I would rather want him to get it at the Gabba, but
that's a different case. Yes. But people, his home ground, his match there, 100th in his own backyard, that kind of fits perfectly. So
Calcutta is also as much his backyard as it is.
Which ground in India isn't?
Yes, which ground? But Calcutta has a history. Calcutta was the place where Shoaib Akhtar bowled him that first ball, great delivery. Calcutta certainly is very important to Indian cricket. So if it comes there, I won't be surprised, and it will be a great
And I hope
cricketing center to get it.
I hope it comes early so that the media especially can move on from this topic and stop questioning each and every innings and hype it up so much so that it takes away the interest from the rest of the match.
Every match he plays, every innings he plays, he seems to cross another record, 15,000 runs. Cannot say... I mean, we have said everything about the man. I mean, there is no more left to say about the achievements, the records, everything. Your take on the 15,000?
15,000 runs. I think the record is going to stand for a long, long time to come.
Akram recently said Virat Kohli is the only man who has the potential to reach that. High praise.
A little too much. A little too much. A little too early, I'd say.
A little too early, yeah. But he has shown signs, though.
He has shown signs, but again, till he replicates those performances in India and abroad.
Yeah.
Because right now he's only been performing on the the Indian wickets.
First he needs to make into the test team. That's
and then after that, when he does give that consistent performances abroad, like South Africa, pitches in New Zealand, I think that's the worst place for a batsman.
Yeah.
New Zealand.
Well, grounds are very oddly shaped. You first need to know your angles properly.
The conditions for bowlers are absolutely amazing, and if a batsman can go and score in New Zealand, that's the true test. I forget Australia, forget England.
I remember the 2002 series India played in New Zealand, and you take Indian 11 and New Zealand 11. 22 batsmen could not score a run, and it was, I think, Jacob Oram who got like 22s and 23s, which were the highest in both the teams, and he used to win man of the matches for them.
That was, I mean, if a player can go to New Zealand, perform well in those conditions, hands down, that guy's got some talent. Alright guys, that was one great session of...
just talking cricket.
Talking cricket. Moving on to our next segment. I think Parth here has compiled an interesting list of the commentators. Like we talk a lot about cricket, but we don't talk about commentators a lot. And
I think commentators give voice to cricket. And
absolutely. So half the entertainment of the cricket watching experience is on how the match is commentated on.
Yes.
And who can forget Tony Gregg screaming at every 6 and 4 Sachin hit at Sharjah in that 98 series against Australia, or Jeffrey Boycott talking about Ganguly, the Prince of Kolkata, or any other, or Ravi Shastri screaming in the top of his lungs, like a tracer bullet.
Like a tracer bullet.
And so we don't talk a lot about commentators, and Parth here has a very interesting list compiled of 5 commentators that we would love to actually sit with and commentate on a cricket match.
You forgot Sanjay Manjrekar's...
Sachin Tendulkar.
I just love that whenever you say it. But seriously, guys, this is, I think, a new segment we are trying to do here. We are trying to... every week or every other week, me and Sarthak will create our favorites list. This, I wanted to start off because... having watched cricket, I've really admired the role of media presenters, let's call them. They sort of bring a story to cricket more than any other thing that does. I mean, players are fine, but you'd never imagine seeing Sachin hit those Sharjah sixes, as you said. And if Tony Gregg not being there, the sort of entertaining value of that innings would be cut by 3/4.
That's, I absolutely agree with you.
And there is nothing worse than nothing worse than a bad commentator. And what makes a bad commentator? A person who speaks the obvious, who speaks everything ball by ball, what's happening. You don't need to do that. I read a book by Chi Beno, who is in my list. He said, what makes a good commentator is to sort of appreciate the value of silence. If there is something great happened, if a batsman has reached 100, the crowd applause. If people hear the crowd applause, that's much more valuable than you yammering on about the kind of innings that was. So you can still talk about that, but after the crowd has sort of has given the applause and after things have happened. So
valuable advice, and I think one of the reasons why commentators are good, because they are the agents who interpret what's going on in the field for
Yes.
the audience back home,
Yes.
who are watching it on their TV sets. They don't really they don't always understand why a shot was played or why a field placement was changed, because the commentators there have a bird's eye view of the entire ground, which the TV audience does not get at all points of time.
Yes.
So they can keep them abreast with all the changes in the fielding side that are being made, or why certain captain chose to take this bowling change and not the other one. And they are sort of the interpreters in between of what's going on, the action on the field, and for the TV audience back home. Over to you.
Yes.
Dig right into it.
Okay. The way I've structured is that if I were to be a commentator, which 5 would I choose to commentate with? Now, the reason why I did this is because there are many people who are very exciting. There are many people, like for example, Danny Morrison is the most exciting commentator I have heard. But
Manish Pandey. For people who watched IPL would know what I'm referring to. He called Manish Pandey Manish Pandey. So again,
but all right, let's move on from that episode. What I decided was that I will do my 5. Now my 5 include Richie Benaud, who I chose because he has seen nearly 500 more than 500 test matches as a player and as a commentator. That has a lot of value, according to me, because he brings the experience which not many people do. And having read his book, My Spin on Cricket, tremendous knowledge source, and I would like to speak to him regarding how was Bradman like? That's one question he gets all the time. But stuff like that, things that me as a person don't have the access to. Another great commentator, which I think you would also agree with, is Mark Nicholas. I think in modern day, if you want a person to commentate on a moment that you think will be very important, you get Mark Nicholas, according to me.
Right. Yeah, very good commentator, obviously. And for someone having not played cricket at an international level, to have such a deep understanding of the game is always impressive.
No, actually, he played for the English county team.
International level.
Oh, international level. Yeah. Okay, yeah. Another commentator I would like to have is Harsha Bhogle, which I'm pretty sure you would put that in.
Harsha Bhogle ranks number 1 in my list.
Yes.
So above anyone else, Harsha Bhogle, totally. Very, very, very amazingly talented cricketing brain. Again, another person who hasn't really played any cricket but has such a deep understanding of the game by following it for I think 22 years, 23 years now.
Yeah, more, yeah.
Amazing knowledge, and best thing about him, a great orator. He knows what to speak, how to speak, and when to say it.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that is really admirable in a commentator, because they know what to speak.
Because generally they are players. Players know how to play cricket. They don't know how to present. You know, Harsha is Harsha, leaving aside everything, he is probably the only commentator who thinks like an academic, who looks cricket as through the eyes of a historian, who looks cricket through the eyes of an outsider who wants to learn, which is very precious for a commentator, because you cannot think that you know everything. And players generally think, okay, for example, you get somebody like a Shane Warne. He's good, but he thinks that he knows he's done his time, so he knows about the game, which is fine, which is what you want. But you also want somebody who can tell that, can you tell me how this happened and stuff like that. Very good storyteller also, which is important in the commentator. And moving on from one storyteller to another, Ian Chappell, I think the best storyteller in the business right now, according to me. I love Channel 9 commentary team as a general, the way they work, but I think Ian Chappell brings the different aspect to it because first of all he was a great captain, so he knows the aspects of great captaincy, wrong moves on the cricket field, which is sometimes a miss when you hear about when you hear people talking about cricket.
And I think that's what I admire the most about him, that the fact that he was a great captain and he can read the captains on
Very
the field.
fast, very,
he can read
very
the captains on the field and try to understand what they are trying to do and interpret it for the TV watching audience, which is what the role of the commentator involves.
Yes.
To break it down for the audience back home, watching it on the TV sets, and tell them what actually is going on in the field in front of their eyes.
Yes. Another thing that is good about Ian Chappell is that he has sort of a very, very simple approach to cricket. He does not complicate things. He makes, I mean, first of all, he actually does not take any nonsense. Second of all, he says that life should be simple, and that's how cricket was meant to be, which is very good. We'll talk more about him in future. And another one to add a very subcontinent flavor to it is Ramiz Raja, because I think he's the best Pakistan has ever produced in commentary terms, and he's probably the most. He probably can explain a normal moment, the best that I have seen, because Harsha Bhogle and actually Mark Nicholas are good at explaining the great moments, the best moments. But normal general cricket, I think Ramiz Raja would be another interesting choice for me.
So great pick there.
Who would you pick if you were to remove one or two or?
I'd probably remove Ramiz Raja, and if we have to select someone to represent the subcontinental community, I'd probably go with Sunil Gavaskar.
Sunil Gavaskar.
Yeah, I think it would have been a toss-up between Shastri and Gavaskar, but off late Ravi Shastri has been a little more disappointing than Sunil Gavaskar.
Yes, he has been.
So at this point in time, I'd probably put Sunil Gavaskar in there. Again, another reason being that he's been a captain in the past, so he knows the players firsthand, so he probably understands what's going on in their mind at that point of time.
And if you were to remove the clause of being a subcontinent,
that is an interesting one. I'd probably go with Jeff Boycott. I think he's a very interesting player to talk to.
Yeah, okay.
Even my grandmom could do that. That's my Jeff Boycott impression.
We have
attempt.
Seen, we have seen a lot of expressions today.
Probably Jeffrey Boycott. I think he's a very interesting, entertaining character to talk to. Probably off the field, and I think it might be him.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, there you go, guys. That was a list of our picks for the commentary team if we were to ever commentate in a match of who we would want in our team.
Yes.
And now to move on to our last and final segment.
Now, this last segment will talk about our, as usual, weekly moment of the week. Now, this week's moment of the week is Bangladesh joining the party. They became number 10th in the list. It happened
of test playing nations.
Yeah, test playing nations. And November 10th, 2000. So India played the first test against them.
And India was instrumental in actually getting Bangladesh into the test fold. Then BCCI President Jagmohan Dalmia.
Well, that was because he wanted to create a subcontinental bloc and he wanted to create that power struggle between.
There was a lot of politics behind it.
Yes.
But in any case, India was a major factor in getting Bangladesh to play test cricket. I still did not think at that point of time that they were ready for it.
And I still don't think they are ready for it.
One of the reasons why I did agree to was I happy that Bangladesh got the test playing status was because the game was becoming a little more global. The very aim of the game is to be spread in as many countries as possible, get them to play. But I think test level was a little too high for them. They needed to be at the one-day international level for a few more years.
Yes.
Therefore, they were upgraded to the elite test match playing status.
Right now there are 8 teams which they deserve to be in the elite level. Zimbabwe, Bangladesh. West Indies are at the border, but they still should qualify, I think. But 8 confirmed for me, but they still haven't made it to the big
Going back to their debut match against India, I think one standout performer from that match was the person who has never ever performed like that again, Mohammad Ashraful.
Yes.
He was a prodigy, a child star, I'd say, and he became huge in Bangladesh after that.
And I think he's played his entire career off of those
first few innings.
Yes.
Exactly, and he's never lived up to the hype.
He has a lot of potential.
And never replicated it. I think each and every Bangladesh coach comes in with the aim of having him perform to his optimal potential, and each of them fails.
Yeah.
The latest being Jamie Siddons, I think, is right now their current coach, and I think few months back he gave a statement too that the potential that this guy can perform at, he's not or never been at after his probably debut.
Yeah.
And it's been a long struggle for Mohammad Ashraful, but again, a lot of talent, no output.
That's the same with probably nearly majority of the Bangladeshi players. They have a lot of talent. They come from areas where they want to do well, but they just cannot strike.
And I think you can
performances together.
Talking to a lot of friends I have from Bangladesh who have a first-hand knowledge of what the situation back there with these players is, I found out that it's a lot to do about money also. And as you said, the background that they come from, suddenly to go become an international star and see so much, let's say money, it messes with you. You lose focus of what is important, what actually got you there, and you start enjoying the moment more than the path you took to get to that moment.
And I think this is one aspect that people from outside the subcontinent will never be able to relate to. People from subcontinent, whether it will be from India, whether it be from Pakistan, whether it be from Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, they will all be able to relate to this glory to fame. A birth to fame, and then sort of losing the mind, and then just not performing ever. It has happened to many.
And the reason for that
I think
is
you see a live example, somebody like Virat Kohli, who came into the RCB setup. It took him 2 years to adjust to his performing potential, which is sort of an example of how fame generally is looked out upon in subcontinent.
I think the reason why people or players from out of the subcontinent will never relate to this is the way the sports personalities in the subcontinent are looked upon as. They are gods. They are superstars.
Well, cricket.
Media creates superstars out of them. People praise them like lords, and players from outside the subcontinent would definitely not relate to that fact, because back in their own countries, they are normal. Well, obviously, they are stars in their own right. But the amount of media coverage, the amount of fan following that the people from subcontinent get, that is lacking in those countries.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why I think there might be, that's a pro and a con both, because they can still enjoy a normal life without each and every move of them being scrutinized by the media and by the entire population of the country, and they can be normal human beings.
Yeah,
I think that's what sometimes the Indian, Pakistani, or Bangladesh players they lack.
Yeah,
for that room to breathe,
but
the
I
space.
think IPL has done well, so that it's teaching people young how to handle fame, and when they play their peak, they're then used to the fame, and they're then used to everything. So let's cut this down now.
All right, we'll wind up here. It was great.
By the way, we are now, as I said, on BlackBerry. Now, this week, we are also on YouTube. So that channel is called Cricket Hotspot. You can go there, and basically it's the audio version with a video format. So you guys can still carry on your work while listening to us.
So yes, you can follow us there too. So each and every time a new video is posted,
yes,
you can just go listen to us on YouTube if that's more convenient for you. And again, thank you so much for all the love.
And it's on Facebook, www.facebook.com/thecrickethotspot.
Yes, and appreciate the feedback as usual. We've been getting some great feedback over the last few weeks, and we've tried to incorporate what people are saying. I love the fact that people are listening and actively giving us feedback about what they want to hear in the show, how they want the show to be, and which is amazing because this is what it's all about. It's about you all. It's about people who listen to us, and if they want certain things to be added or certain things to be taken care of, we'll most definitely oblige to that.
I don't know if this is a show, but it doesn't feel as glamorous as a show, but it's certainly an endeavor.
Absolutely. And again, thank you guys for being with us again, and we will see you next week. Till then, take care and have a great time.
Yes. Okay, see you guys. Bye.
Bye.